Well, thank you so much for having me, and it's been such an incredible day. A beautiful day as well. It's a beautiful part of the world, but it's been absolutely fantastic and humbling to be knocking on doors, leafleting with everybody in this room in support of an absolutely fantastic, local, rooted candidate here in Will. Look at what's happened to this country in the last 5 years. The longest fall in the pay packets of working people since Queen Victoria sat on the throne of this country in the 19th century, where over 1 million workers, disproportionately women, have been driven into poverty wages since that Clegg Cameron Loving in the Rose Garden of number 10. We live in a country where most people in poverty, they're in work. They get up every single morning and they earn their poverty day after day. But there are booming industries. There are booming industries like food banks. Last year, nearly 1 million of our fellow citizens, disproportionately, again children, 300,000 of them kids, driven to food banks. This is the 6th richest country on the face of the earth, one of the richest countries that has ever existed on the history of this planet. And apparently we can no longer afford to feed our poorest people. Not just that, but the scandal of zero-hour contract workers, an army of zero-hour contract workers. It's like a return to a supposedly bygone era where dock workers, they marched to the yard in the morning and they stuck their hands up, hoping to get work. But now I meet young people who get text messages at 6 AM in the morning telling them if they've got any hours that day. No pensions, forget about them. No paid sick leave, let alone maternity leave. How do you build a life? How do you have security, dignity, a future for you and your families? And friends, this is the problem we face. And this is where this, I think, resonates more in this constituency than many others. Tony Benn died almost exactly a year ago. And he always said, the way you get change is the burning flame of anger at injustice and the burning flame of hope at a better world. A lot of people here know, probably better than myself, no shortage of anger out there, no shortage of fear either, but one thing missing: hope. And what happens without hope? Well, without hope, people give up. They become resigned, they yell at the television set, or even worse, their anger is redirected at their neighbours instead. And we have seen that, cynically and shamelessly, ever since this crisis began. People's justifiable anger are their ever-worsening conditions, driven away from those at the top who plunged this country into economic disaster, to people down the road instead. Low-paid workers, their wages cut by their bosses, their in-work benefits cut by this government, but they're told, don't be angry with your boss, don't be angry with your government. Instead, envy the unemployed scrounger down the road living in a mansion made out of widescreen television sets. Don't be angry with the powerful. Envy the immigrant getting the job or the home that should be yours instead. And what are they telling us all the time? They're saying, don't be angry at the fact you're being robbed. Be angry your less deserving neighbour hasn't been robbed quite as much as you have. Who is more responsible for the situation facing you, your families, your communities in this country? Is it Polish nurses? Is it Lithuanian care workers? Is it Indian doctors? Or is it the bankers who plunged this country into economic calamity and are still getting away with it today? Leaving families languishing for year after year on social housing waiting lists, or families paying rip-off rents they can't afford, that we control private rents and give councils the power again to build the housing that this country so desperately needs. And this is what gives me hope. This is what it comes down to, hope. What gives me hope? When you face all of this, these attacks, the venom, the vicious vitriol that the media and the Tories and UKIP all throw at us. This is what gives me hope. It's our history. We don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about the fact that the way we've got change isn't because people with power decided out of their goodwill and generosity to make things better. They didn't wake up one day and think, oh, I'm feeling generous, I'll give women the vote today. Our ancestors fought for everything we have. At such cost, at such sacrifice. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Everything we have, all the rights and all the gains won by our mothers, our fathers, people in this room for that matter, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our ancestors before them. And it is not for us to allow many of the things our ancestors fought for at such cost and sacrifice to be stripped away by a government which did not even win the last general election. And that's what we have to do. We owe it to our ancestors. So let's have the same courage. Let's have the same determination. Let's have the same hope. Let's get this fantastic, locally rooted, inspiring candidate elected. Let's kick the Tories out and let's get a Labour government elected that does what this party was founded to do, represent and champion working people. Let's stand together, fight together and win this battle together.